Sup guys, I am M.I Crowley, and you are watching Metal Insider's Newsroom with me, M.I Crowley. This episode is epic since I have made it to episode number 10. On this episode, we caught up with Ben of Goatwhore before their show at New York City's Gramercy Theatre, headlining this year's Metal Alliance. Let's have a look.
This is Ben from Goatwhore. How you doing, M.I Crowley?
I'm good. Sitting down. Have you guys started working on a new album?
We actually haven't been full production level with the new record, but we have bits and pieces of little skeletons of a few songs kind of put together. And when we tour a lot, we don't really focus on new material a bunch, but we have little pieces here and there. Sammy has a lot of riffs. Him and Zach throw things back and forth, and right now we're just at that stage, but starting in the new year, we'll probably have more stuff on the plate and maybe get in the studio by the end of next year.
End of next year, and will skeletons be included?
No, the skeletons are before everything. That's how we start with the songs, is the skeletons. There's no skeletons afterwards.
Aw, shucks. I guess that makes sense. What are your plans for next year?
Right now we don't have too much on the plate. We might be going back to Europe for a little run and some other little things, but most of the next year is probably going to be focused around working on the new material.
I was just curious, what is the metal scene like in NOLA?
It's pretty unique, you know. It's and it has its moments. It has its peaks and its valleys, and the bands shift around a lot, and there's a lot of people that play in bands that play in other bands and share members. You know, I mean, that's always been a thing in the New Orleans scene. If you go back all the way to I God and Down and Crowbar, and you see that a lot of people. The scene's kind of small actually compared to bigger cities. New Orleans isn't a huge city, and I think a lot of people, their perception of New Orleans is being such a big place, but it's not really a city like New York City or Chicago or Los Angeles, and so the scene is actually a little bit more condensed, and so a lot of people share duties in different bands like that. So, but the scene's always been great. It's been really good scene as far as people being connected and working together. It's good.
Out of curiosity, are there any decent metal bars out there?
Yeah, there's a few. They have their periods in time, there's a place we played not too long ago called Santos, and it's actually, it kind of shifts during the week, but sometimes you go in there and they have a metal DJ night, and people bring vinyl in and play old metal records and stuff like that. There was some other places, we used to play this place called Siberia, and there was a lot of, they always had metal shows, but they kind of shifted things. So sometimes the venues kind of shift around in New Orleans, and they're different here and there. But then we have some that are little bars in the suburbs. We have this little one called Babylon, and they have different metal and old rock and roll on jukebox or whatever. So there's little places scattered throughout the city and throughout the suburbs.
What are your thoughts of bands retiring, such as Kiss and Slayer?
Are they really retiring? I mean,
well, in 5 years.
Well, I mean, I get, it comes to a point where I guess it really has to happen, I mean, Slayer's been through a lot, and they've done a lot of stuff through time. So it's kind of like an inevitable cycle where it's going to turn out that way, and Kiss has been trying to retire for 30 years now, 20 years.
At least 30.
So, that cycle's been going on. So it's funny when people ask me about a band, they're retiring or they're doing their final tour. It's that question goes off in your head and you're like, are you sure in 2 years they're not going to do another final tour? So, but, I have to say, I got to see Slayer. I've got to see Kiss. So at this point, whatever they decide to do, I'm satisfied because I got to witness it in a live situation.
Awesome. Some people will never have a chance.
Yeah, no, some people won't, and it's a shame, but I'm a big Queen fan. I've never got to see Queen except things online and stuff like that, and through this, this movie that they just released. But I think that's part of life. Some things you don't get to witness, and that's the mystery of it all.
Mysteries. For you, what was the most challenging album for Goatwhore to make?
I think I kind of feel like A Haunting Curse was, because it was the transition of us. You know, we were finishing up our deal with Rotten Records and we were moving on to Metal Blade Records, and the writing and everything that we were doing was a lot different from the previous two records we had before it. So I feel, and then, you know, we were going in the studio with Eric Rutan. It was a whole different experience, you know, so I felt like that was a little bit more of a stressful kind of thing overall, because once we recorded with Rutan and got to know him and everything, the records we did with him afterwards were just like, everything just kind of flowed out. Everybody was on the same page. We knew each other, you know, so definitely I feel, for me personally, I feel like Haunting Curse was that like transition within Goatwhore, both like what we were doing musically and going to like a new person that, you know, knew how to do a really good record and was into heavy music, and then a new label that was like a huge label within, you know, the evolution of metal and stuff like that. So that record for me definitely would probably be the stress point.
You performed at this year's 70,000 Tons of Metal, and I believe you were the one who got really sick. What was the experience like for you?
It wasn't good. It was I was pretty aggravated about the whole thing, just because I was really like, before going to do it, you know, years and years of seeing it happen, I really wanted to be involved with it, and then finally get to go do it. We play the first, like, because you play two sets, like on the way and then on the way back, and on the way, you know, we played a set, and then I was catching something. I'm not sure exactly what it is, some kind of flu or something like that. It wasn't any kind of seasickness or anything, because I do stuff, I go diving and stuff. I mean, the biggest thing too was I was going to go diving when we got to Turks and Caicos, and I couldn't even do that because I was just like bedridden. And I mean, it takes a lot. Like, I'm a pretty resilient person and I do a lot of things. I mean, I was in Europe earlier this year. I broke my leg and foot, and I still stayed and did the shows. So it was like really bad, and you know, the whole scenario ended up just being really crappy. I mean, hopefully 70,000 tons, give me another chance.
We'd love to see you back on the boat.
Yeah. It was just, you know, it was a bad thing. It was crazy because too, when I knew I really couldn't do it, I went to like the head office of the people that did it on the boat, and I was telling them, because I was trying to see if they could maybe shift the time schedule a bit, because maybe the next day I would feel a little better, but nothing could happen because everything's really locked into a grid on the cruise and everything. So, but it was definitely a crappy experience as far as that goes. But I mean, like being there and seeing what goes on is completely amazing. But then when you get caught in a situation like I was, it makes it really a crappy situation.
That sucks. And you guys did everything you could.
Yes, pretty much.
For fun, if you could summarize your career as a movie genre, what would it be?
Fast Times at Ridgemont High. What is that?
A comedy.
Well, what's that? A comedy?
A cult classic.
Yeah, cult classic. So pretty much like that, yeah. Fast Times at Ridgemont High, you know, those kind of movies, yeah. That would sum it up pretty much.
Awesome. Do you have anything else you want to say or add?
The only thing I would like to say is that I just wish that people would be more into checking out bands nowadays. You know, it's funny because people still, you know, like someone is offered a band and they're said, well, this band is this genre. And the person might be, well, I'm not into that genre. But why don't you, you know, it's 2018. You have the internet. Everybody's on there. Everybody can hear anything you ever want. So why don't you just go listen to it? You know, like when I go on tours with bands that I'm not really familiar with, I go check it out before I go on tour, so I know what's going on. And I also stumble across bands that, you know, I find new bands, I find interesting things, and it, you know, it keeps kind of the cycle going. So don't cut off something just because somebody said it's a certain way. Go check it out for yourself. Be an individual. Do the individual thing.
Speaking of individuals, for those who haven't heard of Goatwhore, which album should they listen to first?
All of them.
In what order?
I can't, you know, the order thing, it's like kind of like Star Wars. You can either watch the first three movies or you can watch the three movies after that, or you can watch the three movies before that, so it's like, it's up to you. Just pick a record and go in there. Do it like a crapshoot, whatever. Just grab one and take a listen and see. But I definitely say you should listen to each and every one of them, because each one has its own different element and aspect. Because just like any other band, bands evolve. And, they get better, they write better, things get better, depending, it's all an opinionated thing. But overall, just you check it all out, because you never know. You might have one you don't like, but then you might have one you really like.
Grab bag. I like it.
Thanks, M.I Crowley. I appreciate the interview, and I hope you have an awesome day.
Ben, you're a cool dude. And that's Ben from Goatwhore. Until next time, I am M.I Crowley, signing off.